Well, we have the honor of honoring Maddie and Barb, who just completed their new member checklist in record speed. So please join me in welcoming full-fledged members. And they're going to actually share a little bit about their direction where they're plugging into the club. So Maddie, would you share?
Absolutely. I'm really excited to be working with the Polar Bear Open Committee for this upcoming event in 2024, and then also helping Susan with the Adopt a Family this year. So I'm excited to continue my involvement in Rotary.
Yeah, really excited to be a member of Rotary, full member now to get our straight through. So really excited just for the energy of this group that I've observed. It's a great group. It's 5 minutes from my house. What could be better than that? So really excited to be involved in the Speakers Bureau to really get interesting speakers as we've had the whole time I've been here, and to bring awareness to nonprofits such as the Dublin Food Pantry, which I'm passionate about, as you know. So just excited to be a member of this group. It's a wonderful group. Thank you.
This is just an example of how our club continues to grow. And it's because people are broad guests. We've seen guests. Oh, yes, and by the way, I need your name tags afterwards. Make sure we get those over. Kurt can do it. But it's a reason that we all need to be continuing to expand our influence, expand our community by bringing guests to the meeting. And I just can't say enough about the energy that you two bring to our community in Dublin, but also to the community now of Rotary. We appreciate that. We've got a bunch of announcements this morning, so let me keep on going real fast. Susan Robidoux.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to take a poll of anybody interested in shopping for Adopt a Family this year. It's hard to believe that it's like 55 days away from Christmas or something like that. And so we need shoppers. I have the list from Salvation Army. So once I get my shoppers, Maddie and I get our shoppers, so we're ready to distribute and get you all out shopping for all the people. So anybody who would like to shop, just raise your hand. Okay, come on. Okay, so just keep up 1 more second, so make sure you get it.
Lou, Claudia, Jack. Oh. All right. Perfect. Our next announcement is about Meals on Wheels and Jill.
Okay. Yes, we got a couple of people to sign up for Meals on Wheels, which we do every Wednesday. It doesn't really take more than an hour. It's super rewarding. People are so appreciative to see you, and they're super, super sweet. We're going to be sending out a sign up genius via email. So if you see that and you can sign up, we get lots of instruction, but it's really easy and really fun. So please sign up. Thank you.
A few other quick announcements. Dr. Beckett's father passed away. And I don't know how many of you are close to Todd, but if you could send him a quick text message and email, let him know that we're thinking about it. His dad was very helpful in our very first Pro-Am year. We went looking for sponsors, and Todd helped us get to, he was on the board and his dad was on the board at the University of Finland. And they were one of our first sponsors, and I got to pick up the check personally from the president. And she joined us at that first Pro-Am. And the dad was very influential again in helping those veterinary students get from University of Finley into Ohio State. And there's a million connections there. But again, Todd was our Rotarian Rookie of the year I came into, and he's done a lot for Todd. So if you would just reach out to him and maintain that contact, I know he would appreciate it. I also just want to mention real quick, Daryl is traveling back into Ohio from the Mayo Clinic. And again, if you need to know the exact email, you have an email address. It's I saw that sent out again from Cindy, but it's Daryl and Jeannie Believe at gmail.com. If you want to get, Claudia's got links here.
No, I have a card I'm sending around. Do you want to?
Oh, you have the card? Claudia's sending around the card. And again, we wanted to stay in touch with Daryl unbelievably quick. I sent a quick email to Daryl and Jeannie, and within 12 hours, they were back on how much they appreciated hearing from people. So again, it's a great way for us to continue. Wolf, do you have anything about October you want to tell us?
I do, just want to thank everybody for all of your donations for this October event. We collected 315 pairs of socks, which is great, and we'll be turning those in, I think with Claudia later this week. Two beneficiaries, First Dublin and Salvation Army, we're split at 50-50. Thank you.
Really appreciate everybody turning out for that. There's one, Peter Georgeton has something slightly contagious, so he couldn't be here this morning to announce it himself. But he is wanting to make sure everyone's aware, we're still collecting for polio. We're not doing the polio 125 club. We're gonna be doing the drawing for that on November 10th. So if you gave last year, if you've given in previous years, or if you've never given, all you have to do is reply back to Peter Georgeton with the email saying, I'm in, and you're in. And Amy will take care of invoicing later this month. I thought I'd mention we had a lovely event in the city of Dublin with gratitude. Andy, thank you for involving Rotary and keeping us there. Claudia, thank you for your presence for Rotary at the city of Dublin's gratitude event. We saw Megan and reminded her she's going to be speaking with us again soon. Paige, thank you again. You and your wife are a lovely presence at all of those city events for us. So we really appreciate all the Rotarians that show up at these things and remind the city how much we enjoy working with them. Megan is having a women's luncheon next week. So for those people who like going to a women's business luncheon and want to see the city of Dublin's manager, Megan, Claudia and I believe are going to be two of the attendees. So see us if you don't have that email. And anything on the holiday party?
Yeah, the holiday party, you have to save the date. It is Friday, December 8th. It is here. It's $50 per person. Oh my God, you get so much for that. There's so much for you. You get 2 big drink tickets and you're gonna get a gift. And you're gonna get the picture taken. And the invitation is going out today. You will see directions that have the options for your entree in your comments section. Please say who is coming and which entree, 1, 2, or 3 they prefer.
And with that, our usual welcome for the Sergeant at Arms. Oh, we have some more announcements, please.
One last announcement.
Yes.
First 3 Saturdays of December, the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th is our Red Kettle Bell Ringing campaign. Again, Kroger's on West Bridge Street and Kroger's, I always call it perimeter. Interact will be involved on the 9th, so we'll have one location, they'll have the other location. Stay tuned, look for the push out next week for calendar online signups. If it's available on your calendar, we would appreciate your help. Thank you.
When do we get instructions?
Great job. No,
Don't forget how to do that. Respect the bell.
Calvin, keep us on track.
Thank you for the warm welcome. I greatly appreciate that. It's just such an honor to be here this morning. We have visiting Rotarian is Elisa Van Landingham. That'll be $1. Lewis, I apologize. Sir, I cannot read the writing. You're our guest this morning. Right here, yes. Yes, sir. Welcome. And we have the world famous Chuck Cranstuder here with us this morning. Chuck. And Jennifer Azat, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And Jennifer, where are you at? Somewhere. Right here. Okay, and the time, for time's sake, with our program this morning. So how we'll do the fines. Anybody got any bragging rights, holidays, birthdays, anything? Hearing none, that's good. It's $1 for everybody. All right, so the small pot, beg your pardon? What'd you say, Colonel? Thank you, sir. Well, isn't it far better to give than to receive? Yes. All right, so anyhow, small pot is $20, large pot is $2.77. Would you like to draw, ma'am?
Yes. Oh, actually, I can. No, no. No, we've got.
Oh, well, you're gonna have to draw in. All right, go ahead. Don't have your glasses on. 9149. Oh, 49. It's right here.
Yay.
Small or large? All right, he takes $20 and next ticket. Ma'am. 9188. 9188. Okay, move on. Consider.
So Calvin, are we? All right, wall of money collection. Calvin, thank you. While the money collection is going on, are you wrapped up? All right, good. I will share with you guys that our guest today, it's a rare treat. When we get to have someone who's important in the community and representing all of us in the community as a member, it's really a treat to have them as a speaker. It's also a treat to have somebody in as a speaker that is a very, very active leader in our community that we see publicly all the time. In this case, we get the pleasure of having both. John, thank you for being here, talking about the levy specifically. I will tell you that John probably has the longest list of academic accomplishments of anybody in the room, but the shortest bio. So, on purpose, and we appreciate that. John Marschhausen, Dr. Marschhausen is the superintendent of Dublin City Schools. John has spent how many years?
19 as a superintendent, 26 in education.
Excellent, excellent. He talks about strategy and culture, and he says culture beats strategy, eats strategy for lunch. I love that. And again, his bio is tremendously great and short, but I know you have a very important message for us today. So if you would please lead us through the discussion about the schools and the levy and what's happening in our community. Let's hear it from Dr. Marshall.
I'm going to try to stay back here. I tend to be a wanderer when I talk, but I'll try to stay still today. Before I get into the specifics of the levy, and I don't want that to be the only thing that I talk about today, I want to acknowledge that we have what I believe is the best public school district in the state of Ohio right here in Dublin. And when we look at what we do in Dublin, our recently adopted board mission statement is to prepare every student for success. And success is different for every student. There was a time when we measured success purely by a test score, but we know now that your ACT score does nothing more than tell you how you perform that day on the ACT. So when we look at what we're preparing students for, we're preparing them for an entirely different world. And one of the things that we have in Dublin that other places don't have, and I give Todd Hoadley, who's sitting right here, all the credit in the world. I got to step into a district that had Emerald Campus. And our Emerald Campus brings students from all three high schools together, where we're able to build incredible capacity to offer programs that other districts, even big districts, aren't able to offer. And at Emerald Campus, we serve almost 1,600 students per day. And those 1,600 students come through that building and they get to be part of our International Baccalaureate program. They get to take College Credit Plus courses. We just announced this month our 11th, 12th, and 13th Academy, all of whom have business partnerships. And next year, we're going to launch our Ease Logistics Academy. And Peter Cortola and our friends at Ease, they're going to host students at Ease, up to 100 students a year in a logistics program that will get them both experience and credit and opportunities to potentially get hired either right out of high school or go on to get an education based on what they've learned and what they need in that experience. And we want to become the UC of public education. If you think of UC, you think of co-ops. When you think of Dublin, we want to think about experiences. That we want every kid who graduates to have an experience that prepares them for success down the road. We're launching our medical academy, a partnership with Ohio Health and Dublin Methodist and Columbus State Community College, where students will be at the OU Dublin campus and working at the same time at Dublin Methodist while in high school. Ohio Health and Columbus State will tell you, you can get a free RN if that's what you choose to do, and you can start that as a junior in high school. And you can then finish and come out debt-free RN job with Ohio Health. And we also, thanks to our partnership with Visit Dublin, launched a hospitality academy. And our hospitality academy will take advantage of Bridge Park, where students will be able to get into the restaurants and the entertainment spaces and the hotels, and they'll be able to experience those jobs. And again, each of our academies, from Aviation Academy to hospitality, gives students the opportunity to either go right to work after high school, to go to community college and get stackable certificates, or to get a 4-year degree. And all those students from all 3 schools with all 3 avenues and pathways are going to be able to do that right here in Dublin. All of the things that we do are designed to prepare students for success when they leave. Let me make sure I get the right things here. A couple things in case you don't know. When we just look statistically at the Dublin City School District, we're now about 17,000 students. We're growing 270 students per year. I'll talk about the challenges that come with that in a moment. We are 40.3% non-white students. So when people think about Dublin, they don't think about our tremendous diversity. 4 of every 10 students in Dublin is not a white, is a minority student. We're over 10% English language learners, which means 10% of our students, English isn't their primary language. 6th largest EL population in the state of Ohio, and we get students off EL service faster than anyone in the state of Ohio, which means we get them out of those EL classes, get them the training they need. They're speaking English well enough to be able to then go into their regular classes. 16% of our students are economically disadvantaged. And when you walk and you look at all of the Dublin City School District, we are incredibly diverse. 13% of our students have disabilities. It's not that people who live in Dublin have a propensity for having students with disabilities. Here's one of our challenges. We're really good with special ed students, so people move here for the special ed services. And when you have people who have resources and have the means, and they're moving here from other suburban districts because of the way we do special education, and we have a 93% graduation rate. And I'll tell you that 93% graduation rate is low because in some ways of how the state calculates students with disabilities. Because with our students with disabilities, they can stay with us till they're 22. We have a robust program for students between the ages of 18 and 22, where they still receive school services and they still receive support from the school, as many of them are out in workforce environments, but they count against your graduation rate because the state sees that they didn't graduate with their cohort. And there are lots of things that we do in Dublin that I would say we would rather be better than look better. And this is one of them. We welcome those students. There are districts who try to get them off of those services so it looks better with graduation rates. No, we do what's best for students and their families in Dublin. We're on the ballot because we have 2 challenges. We have a revenue challenge and we have a growth challenge. We do not receive increased revenue when your property values go up. The auditor stood in our office, in our board meeting, and said the average increase in the Dublin City Schools and property values is going to be about 33%. That equates to about a 3% increase in our revenue. Because of state law, all of our past mills get reduced as property values go up. We can never collect more money than the day that levy is certified. And what we're asking for right now is the perfect example. In July of this year, the county auditors of the 3 counties we served said it would take 7.9 mills to generate $34.2 million. So what we asked for was $34.2 million. In July, that was based on 2022 property values. Now we all got those postcards in our mailboxes and we know what our new property values are. We're still only going to get $34.2 million. The effective millage in January for what you're going to vote on next Tuesday will be 6.27 mils. Because with the new valuations, it only takes 6.27 mils to generate $34.2 million. Doesn't matter if 500 new homes are built. It doesn't matter if your property values go up 30%. We're still only getting $34.2 million. And if you look at this graph, the blue line is our revenue. Our revenue is flat. We're basically on a fixed income between levy cycles. And people look at us and say, wait a second, they built 2,000 homes in Jerome Township and they're valued at $800,000 a pop. You all should be rolling in money. The year the houses are built, we get the new money. The next year, the auditor redoes the entire pot. And we only collect on this levy, we would collect $34.2 million. You as our citizens have voted over 90 mils to support the school district. We're collecting 43. Without passage of this levy, next year, you'll be paying 36 effective mils and we'll have voted in over 90. So the only way we're able to get additional revenue is to come to you and say, we need more money. Those of you who have been here for a while, it's every 3, 4, or 5 years. I got to do this. Todd got to do this. Dave Axner got to do this. Every 3, 4, or 5 years, this is how our schools are operated. The red line are our expenses. As I said, we're growing 270 students per year. Since the last levy was passed, we opened Hopewell, Depp, Eversole Middle School, the Emerald Campus, and a centralized preschool. We continue to grow. So when we look at the staff that's required there, the increases that staff costs, those are our expenditures. That green line on the bottom in that circle is when we run out of money. Our school district will run out of money in fiscal year 26. We're in fiscal year 24. So we have a choice as a community. We either need more revenue or we need to cut expenses. And that's the choice that we're looking at as the result of what will happen on November 7th. We will either get more revenue or we'll have to reduce expenses. These schools, and there's a paper on your tables that has more information than this, than what I'm going to talk about. Abraham Depp, the elementary up in Jerome Village, was built to hold about 750 kiddos. If we don't do anything, there will be 1,400 students there in 3 years. We already redistricted out over 200 students, and we already have 12 modular classrooms there today. When we put that modular classroom unit up at Depp in the spring of this year, we thought we would need 6 classrooms this year and 6 classrooms next year. We're in 11 classrooms right now. When you look at Eversole Run Middle School, in 2 years, we exceed the capacity of Eversole Run. All those little ones grow up and they eventually go to middle school. We put a 60,000 square foot addition on Jerome High School that opened in August, on time and under budget. That 60,000 square foot addition at Jerome will buy us a couple years. But when you see we get to 25, 26, we start to reach capacity at Jerome again. Again, those middle school kids grow up and they move up. We are a destination district. At our PTO president's meeting last month, a woman raised her hand and she said, we're new here from Arizona. My husband works for Amazon and Amazon told us to move to Dublin. We have 4 of the top 8 execs at Intel live in Dublin because Intel's telling people you need to go to Dublin or Olentangy, 2 fastest growing school districts in the state of Ohio, because this is where we are. And in 2018, we didn't do anything wrong. We didn't know in 2018 that Central Ohio would become the Silicon Valley of the Midwest. We didn't know Intel would come. We didn't know Honda would put its battery manufacturing plant here. We didn't know that the Googles and the Amazons and the spinoffs are all coming. Central Ohio is going to be 3 million people by 2050. They're going to move someplace, and they want to go places where there are good schools and a great community. That's us. So as we look at what we do moving forward, we see potential increases. All of these dots are either places that are starting or that have been proposed. When you look at the dots that are in the city of Dublin, they've all been proposed to planning and zoning. Andy's here. We are incredibly grateful for our partnership with the city of Dublin. The city of Dublin gets it. They understand the impact that housing has on schools, and that when you put in housing that generates more kids, that we have to be on the ballot more. And there's a great collaboration with our partners in the city of Dublin. I'm not sure that our partners in Jerome Township and Union County understand that. We sent a letter of concern to our partners in Concord Township, as Concord Township proposed a 10-year, 75% TIF on a new development north of Eli Penny Elementary. Bill and I were talking as he came in this morning. There's an article in today's Columbus Dispatch front page about all the abatements in central Ohio. The old athletic club at Old Sawmill. If you've driven past it recently, the apartments are starting to come up out of the ground. It's 202 affordable housing units, 100% abatement for 15 years for that development. Brian Kern, our treasurer CFO, and I got on a call with Mayor Ginther's staff. They don't care. And they said the rich suburbs are going to get more kids. So as the city of Columbus does this, that's their goal, is to, and they say affordable housing, but only 20% of the units have to be affordable housing. The other 80% can be market value, but it still gets a 15-year abatement. If there are 200 units there, they're multifamily, we're going to get 100 kids and no revenue for 15 years. If I had told you that Anderson's would be multifamily housing, you'd tell me I was nuts. Well, there we are, Anderson's multifamily housing. So as we look as a district, it's what's coming. We know housing's needed in Central Ohio. We know there's going to be growth in the Dublin City schools. We just have to be mindful of the impact that growth has on our schools' funding model, and that we have to ask for more money in order to see increases in revenue. And as we get more kids, we have more challenges. This levy, we're asking for a no new millage bond that will build elementary 15 behind Jerome High School on the former Riviera Golf Course. We're asking to expand our preschool. We, by law, have to serve young people who are 3 and 4 years old with disabilities. And we're going to run out of space in 2025. So we're asking to expand the preschool. And we have a lot of older buildings. For those of you who have been here, you're going to be in a little bit of shock. Scioto turns 30 in a year. So when you think about Scioto opening in 1995 and coming up on its 30th birthday, the roof, the HVAC, the elevator needs replaced. An elevator costs $1.2 million. So as you look at some of those older buildings, we have to be able to take care of those facilities. I get asked all the time, when does this end? Well, first of all, I have no idea. And Todd's sitting here, and if we had talked to Todd in 2018, he would have had a different number than I had now, because we know more now. And we're going to know more in 5 years. But if we were going to have a crystal ball based on what we know now, if this passes, we're going to open an elementary in August of 2025. We've already been working with planning and zoning in the city of Dublin to have that site prepped and ready to go. We have bid packages ready to put in the field at the December board meeting if we get voter approval in November, so that we can get that new elementary opened in August of 25. We're going to have a conversation as a community about, do we want a 4th high school or do we want 3 bigger high schools? Because as those kids grow up, we're going to have a place to put them in high schools. We purchased land on the corner of Industrial Parkway and Emerald DeWitt, 100 acres, with the thanks of the Scott family, who is a family of educators who is very generous with the price and very happy to have that partnership with the school district. So we've always been thinking ahead with land. The land that Hopewell Elementary sits on, the district had for 30 years. So having land helps. That could be high school 4. That could potentially be middle school 6 and elementary 16 down the road if we chose to go bigger high schools. When people talk bigger high schools, we could build a freshman building on each campus and use like a Lakota model where you're still a Jerome student or Kaufman student. The benefit of building on to the existing campuses is you don't need another auditorium, another cafeteria, another stadium, another performing arts center. When we built Hopewell and Depp, it was $285 a square foot. The estimate for elementary 15 is $526. And that's today. When you look at the cost of just materials it's going to be hard to get concrete in a couple of years because all the concrete trucks are going to be in Licking County. When you look at just the raw materials, our friends in Union County bid the roundabout on the corner of Industrial Parkway and Mitchell DeWitt. They had 0 bids for a public project because there's just more work than there are construction crews. So we want to get out in the field as soon as we can to lock this down. But when we think about building in the future, we have to be mindful of every square foot costs that much. The vision that was used for Emerald Campus, we keep that in mind. If there's Class A office space that meets our needs, that we can put students in, that you can get at a better price, yeah, we continue to look at those options. We actually toured the Cardinal Health building that's over by the Field of Corn that's empty right now. The problem is by code, we're not allowed to use students on the 5th, 6th, or 7th floors. So even though it would be a good deal, you can't leave 40% of the building unused. But we'll continue to look at those types of options. But we're going to have that conversation as a community. We run out of land according to current projections in the mid-2030s. Like all the farms would be turned into houses. The concern is what happens on Sawmill. What happens if Kohl's goes out of business, if Dick's goes out of business, what happens to Dublin Village? If we see those transitions, we're going to have to be mindful and be ready to pivot. And I think as a school district, we're going to have to be more active in some of the conversations that take place with our partners besides the city of Dublin when it comes to what do those abatements look like? What do those TIFs look like? I'll give you one more example. If you ever got pumpkins at Jackman Farm before, you know that you can't go pick pumpkins there anymore. Say that real fast. When you look at Jerome Grand, it's 302 units over on Highland Croy. Jerome Township trustees gave a 10-year 75% TIF to incentivize Schottenstein Realty to build that property. We're only getting 25% of the tax revenue for 10 years because the other 75% is being used to put in the infrastructure and the utilities and the roads that made that possible. But we get 120 kids out of there. So when you look at the fact that we get 120 kids and we're only getting 25% of the revenue for a decade, that becomes a bit of a problem. Because honestly, when we come and talk about a levy, that means you're paying for the infrastructure that went in, that's paying Schottenstein to put the revenue in, to put the infrastructure in. Because we have to ask for that revenue to educate 120 kids. And when we were told, and Todd's going to shake his head when I say this, we were told that would be not student housing, that was going to be like Bridge Park. They advertise on their website, Dublin Jerome attendance area. So yeah, they're targeting those families that are in there. When we talk about Bridge Park, we get 18 kids right now out of Bridge Park total. There's a compensation agreement in place that we get $1.5 million a year right now out of Bridge Park. When you build things that aren't conducive to families, like having a parking garage beneath your home, most people don't want to pull the car seat out in the parking garage and go up. So there are ways to build homes that bring housing to the area that don't necessarily generate a lot of kiddos for us. One last thing I want to mention, then I'll take any questions. I put a pamphlet on your desk. Number one concern facing public education right now is the mental health of our students. Our kids have more challenges than they've ever had before. Representatives from Nationwide Children's Hospital were at a meeting that we had on Wednesday of this week. Yeah. If you call Children's Hospital to get your kid in for a mental health appointment, it's a 6-month waiting list to get in to see a specialist for your kids. We knew this is a problem. In partnership, and some of you know Dawn Anderson Butcher, in partnership with Dawn and the College of Social Work at Ohio State, we've created a teacher to social worker pipeline. We're going to become a mental health provider, and we're going to train current teachers to be social workers. We're using federal ESSER dollars, which were the COVID money, and one of the purposes of COVID money was to address learning loss and mental health challenges. So we're using that COVID money to train these teachers who will allow us to put another social worker and licensed professional in every elementary school. I had the opportunity to be with Deputy Secretary Cindy Martin from the US Department of Education. The US Department of Education is using this as a model nationally now, as a way to address mental health crisis in schools. I share this because there are some who say to us, you need to stay in your lane. It's not the school's business to be dealing with mental health and mental health issues. I would say that we can't teach kids unless they're healthy and able to learn. And when we look at our kids and their families in our community, when parents are in crisis, they just need help. So these social workers are going to flex their hours. They're going to be able to meet with families and kids outside of traditional school hours. They're going to be able to meet on weekends with families to be that bridge between school and home. We know that alignment and that consistency in behavior assistance. If you talk to any elementary teacher in the Dublin City Schools today and ask them about the behavior of students today and pre-COVID, they will tell you that it is profoundly different from kindergarten through high school. And I was asked at a community meeting on Tuesday night, when do you think we'll stop talking about COVID? I think in schools we'll be researching the effects of what we did during COVID for a generation. And we won't know the full impact of what it meant to kids and families. So I just wanted to share this with you because we're proud of this work. You hear about this work. And yeah, we're committed. We're going to be able to build back insurance companies as we get licensed professionals. We bill back now for occupational therapy and physical therapy. So as a mental health provider and having licensed clinicians, it won't all rest on us as taxpayers. When we provide those services, we will be a provider and we'll be able to bill back insurance companies and do those things. But I just wanted you to know about that because it's a topic of conversation in the community now. And it's something that we think is a necessity. As we prepare kids for success, they have to be in the right place. So questions?
Two-part, I guess. Does the drug issue fall into this? Are you providing drug counseling as well? And where is that going? Or is it getting worse or better?
We do have substance abuse counselors who are separate counselors in our schools. We often, when we find a child with substance abuse, it's not just punishment, it's punishment and assistance. It's reduction of punishment or consequences when you get the counseling and the help, when mom and dad come to the table. There's an issue on the ballot coming up, and I was asked in a meeting by Governor DeWine, what do you think about issue 2? I said, I never thought I'd be in this situation as a school superintendent where I'd have to question what was the gummy bear. And our concern becomes the edibles. I think people think about kids smoking pot. When you look at some of the legalization challenges we'll face, it's not just kids lighten up. That's not what we see. It's the edibles. And there have been some well-publicized situations in Central Ohio where young people have brought their parents edibles to school and it's created health scares. So anytime a kid needs to put something in their body to feel different, we got a problem. And I think there's more opportunities for that. Yes, ma'am.
So on the sheet, it talks about what would happen if you didn't pass the class sizes. And I, just out of curiosity, when I take ones to 28 kids, what is it now?
Right now, we're 24 in grades K1, 26 in 2, 3, and 28 in 4th and 5th grade. And by increasing class sizes, we do 2 things. We need to move 1,000 students out of the Northwest quadrant. It increases the capacity of every building. So if it doesn't pass, we'll redistrict and shuffle kids from the Northeast towards the Southeast, Northwest towards the Southeast, to just kind of bump kids down because we need more space and we need less teachers. Our budget is 85% salary and benefits. So the only way to cut money is to cut people. I'll stick around out. Oh,
I was saying, yeah, let's take a few more questions.
yes, sir.
I may be out of the loop, but I see a lot more negative about this weather than I see positivity going out. What do you do to combat that? You know,
Well, I think this is my 134th levy talk. And we've got a whole team of people doing this.
First thing John said this morning is.
I think it's my last
I think
too. I'm
he's
like,
asked, so I feel very honored to be.
education has changed since 2018. The last time we did a levy, I've been asked, things feel different. We have become the center of local politics. We have 6 board candidates running. It's the first time that the slate cards have endorsed 2 Rs and 2 Ds. All 6 would have a solid party affiliation with them. The amount of money being spent on this campaign and the amount of issues that are probably not core education, but more social issues that are driving some of the things that we deal with in public education has changed significantly since 2020. It's something that we have to deal with constantly. But yeah, there's more negative, and part of it is, and I'll take responsibility for the decision because it was my recommendation to have a ballot issue on while you have a board election is a bit of a challenge. We don't have an organized anti-levy campaign, but we have candidates who we've given a platform for that they wouldn't have had a platform to be negative before. So it's something that we learn as we go through this process. Yes.
So what kind of conversations are happening about changing the way we fund schools, since it has been found to be?
Well,
Is that not part of what you want?
oh, we try every year. The state just passed a new biennial budget, what they call the fair funding formula. It's fair for probably about 500 schools in the state of Ohio. It's not fair for Dublin. We're only 12-13% state funded. For every dollar you send to Columbus in our state income taxes here, 13 cents comes back to the school. The state average is 85 cents.
So that seems to be an opportunity to.
Yeah, the problem is the way the congressional districts are gerrymandered in Ohio. They really favor small rural communities. There's not a lot of love in the General Assembly for the 25 wealthy, high-performing school districts. And I can go, Senator Huffman will take meetings for me, but it doesn't mean he's going to do what I want. Stephanie Coonsey is a great advocate. A moderate Republican senator doesn't get a whole lot of traction when it comes to financial issues in the General Assembly. So we just need to keep fighting. Yeah, there are things that I think after this levy passed or rejected, we're going to have to get more vocal about. The Route 33 corridor group, Marysville failed the levy in the spring. They're going to be in the same boat we are, growing like crazy. The way we're funded, we don't capture growth dollars. There's got to be a better way to do this. So we might be calling on all of you to be advocates and to help in the next couple of years as we do this. Yes, sir.
Just one comment, with all the information that we've received, including this sheet, what's missing for me is that I don't see a whole lot of bragging on the school district's part about how you've managed expenses. Because when I see those lines, my question is, what are we doing to keep our expenses down like all of us are doing? So that's just a thought that it would be helpful to see some of that rather than some of the, I don't know, it feels almost like fear.
Well,
Here's what's gonna happen, here's what's gonna happen, and that's tough sometimes.
since 2020, the superintendent of Bellbrook Sugar Creek Schools was criminally charged and prosecuted for misuse of public funds for campaigning for a levy. My job is to provide information and to provide facts. I would never tell you how to vote. So the bragging piece, it's a different levy campaign because all I can do is share facts and information. I'm on the clock right now. So, and this is the first time that the board has passed a reduction list. And the only way we could talk about what happens if a levy doesn't pass is by the board passing a resolution saying what's going to happen if the levy doesn't pass. That's the only way I can talk about it. We hope that our parents and our community does some of the bragging for us. And we have to be true to our word. We have to, if the levy doesn't pass, we have to do what we say we're going to do. And the board has said we'll be back in November 24 if we're not successful in 23 after we make the reductions.
Any last questions?
I've always wondered, why does the school system expand so far out and go well beyond the city of Dublin's limits? I live out in Jerome Village. I know Route 42. I never would have figured the school system would ever extend out that far. And where's it gonna stop?
Well,
And there's lots of expenses every time you build these schools. And is it gonna continue all the way up to Marysville and then go out towards, some of the other communities way out there? I mean,
so I'll try to do this really quick, and I love this conversation. Our school district boundaries are frozen. So if you look and you stand at Eversole Run, right across the street, they're single family homes. Those are Dublin City Schools. You turn a little bit to the northwest, the multifamily homes are Fairbanks. And shockingly, they're putting Kroger in Fairbanks School District because they're building the houses in Dublin because they sell for more. But those boundaries are frozen. And how did they get here? When all of the little one-room schoolhouses, like at one point there was Jerome Schools, when they decided to merge with Dublin, that became that boundary. When Perry Township, when Washington Township, when all of the little burgs, when they needed more comprehensive high schools, started to merge, you got these big local school districts. You look at Olentangy. Olentangy has a huge footprint. It's all of the little school districts came together to form Olentangy schools. So as that happened in the early 1990s, 1900s, all the way through the latest mergers, 60s, that's where you kind of got those, that's how our boundaries got drawn. And you look at some of them and you're like, who drew this line? Well, it's wherever somebody's farm was. So when farms were thousands of acres, it would be, okay, so this is Bill Smith's farm. You drew the township line so that the farm went to a one-room schoolhouse. And now that's where we are. So we're pretty much, we're not going to grow further north, but we're also going to educate every kid in every house that's built in what's our existing boundaries.
But it's important, John, to reference the fact that these boundaries didn't come this year. These boundaries came 50-some years ago or longer.
And nobody cared when
Bingo.
Up in Jerome Village, where right now we might have 5,000 homes. At one point, there might have been 20 houses because it was all farms on 5-acre lots and everything else. So
I think we have a last question, one of our guests.
Just one more, and something's always curious, so I'm going down the weeds, I'm sorry. But in these buildings, like your Jerome High School, you have Jerome, they're an asset. Don't they have like a CapEx fund where they say we own and everything's the roof for an elevator in 30 years and there's money going into it every, month or whatever to plan for those kind of maintenance things?
we have a permanent improvement fund that allows us to do some of those maintenance things, but it's not nearly enough to keep up with the number of buildings that we have. And the increasing costs. The new roof and HVAC system on Old Sawmill Elementary that we just did over the last 2 summers was 3.4 million. So when you have those funds, they look good when you pass them, but those don't grow with inflation and everything else keeps going up. So yeah, we don't have enough in that pot to keep up.
John, thank you for
Thank you,
making us
Ingrid.
your best talk. We are so fortunate to have members like John, Todd, and others in our community be part of our Rotary Club. John, thank you very much for that discussion. Really appreciate it. I will say a closing quote is education's the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela. So with that, just let me say next week's meeting is the Ohio State really exciting annual meeting that we have. Jean, keep me honest here. We have Craig Krenzel coming. We have Ryan Miller coming. They're going to be talking about 7th and 7. Are we getting Jimmy Bell also?
Yes. Yep.
So we have 3 of our Ohio State favorite speakers next week. Please wear your Ohio State, your red shirts, your sweatshirts, or your feathers, paraphernalia from the marathons if you've done that with Ryan Miller. And have a great week. We will see you next Friday. Meeting closed.